Besides sending the police, you might want to send an ambulance or a hearse.
Hello, Billy Ho here. Show number two, I guess we can call it the DraftKings show for the Dell Match Play Championships. We're going to talk some strategy and some lineup construction. Weather and tee times are kind of important, I think, just as tidbits. I don't think the weather's going to be any cause for any concern, and there's not tee stacking. You just maybe look at players, what time they're teeing off, and maybe the conditions that these guys are playing in, and what kind of guys are playing. If the windier conditions, are these dudes a little more grinders, or are they better win players? So there's things of that nature. Of course, the five things, excuse me, subscribe to the channel, smash the like, join the Discord, join the contest, and of course, you know, the preview article. Obviously, I knew I was forgetting something. I'm a little scatterbrained today because it is really difficult to hand build these lineups, and we'll take you through a little bit of that, and then maybe show you another option or two as we can go through it. So let's go ahead and get started. We got a lot of work to do. Okay, this is the weather, and I don't exactly trust Wind Finder, but I've looked on a few sites, and it like I said in the Monday video and others, that I thought mid-teens, maybe pushing 20, like it is in the afternoon Thursday, but we don't really know because that's basically this day two. So, like you said, you can't really predict. You can get as close as you can get to the first day, but then when you start getting out here, you never know what's going to happen. There's a little bit of rain in the forecast Saturday. So the winds are looks like they pick up in the afternoon Thursday and continue through Friday AM. So we don't know if there's going to be, it is what it is. And then you got Saturday and Sunday, which both look pretty good. But I just thought that'd be a good idea. This right here are tee times. You should have them. You can look them up. This is round two matches. And this is one I wanted to point out because I thought as I looked over here that it's possible that this afternoon over here could get a little hairy with the 30 gusts and the 20s. So I thought, well, let's go take a look at the matchups for round two and then see who's in the afternoon and whatnot. And then there you go. So you could take a look at tee times and who's matched up against who. That's definitely one way to go about doing it. And I think you've all heard, the stats that play well here, which are wedges and greens and regulation, putting, obviously, Pete Dye, course management, playing good in the wind, and all that great stuff. But if we want to actually get into the brackets here, this is just something that I kind of put together. I'm using Rick's from last year, and I filled everything in, so this is what his looks like. So shout out Rick. But what I did here in the middle was I separated quad one, quad two, quad three, quad four, and that's obviously for the number one player, Scotty, number two, Rom, number three, Homa. Or no, that's not right. Actually, number three is probably not over here. Okay, never mind. But quad four, that's just how it worked out anyway. Um, so one and two, and then three and four. Because actually, Rory would be three, but I don't like going back and forth like that. So they screwed it up. They should have put Rory down here, but you can't. I don't know. It is what it is. Moving on. So basically, what I'm looking at here in the two strongest players in this field are Scotty and John Rahm. So, in my opinion, I'm not playing anybody in their pod. So, yes, Billy, Keith, Ricky, even if I don't have Rahm in my lineup, I'm not playing them because Rahm is more likely to get out of his group than just about anybody. So, I'm just playing the law of averages. He could lose to Ricky, maybe. I don't know. But, and then Keith Mitchell, anything can happen. And I know how it is. But the thing of it is what I did over here is I created a little formula with 1 through 7 or whatever to add up your players. And then this way you can look at your bracket and you can start over here. Okay, well, I'm going to play this bracket. I'm not going to take Scotty. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to get Adam Svensson, who's 6,700. So you put, Svensson, 6,700. Sven. And it just kind of helps you build your lineup, and then that way you're staying under your salary cap. And these are just players that I went through and first started throwing down. But I wanted to build 4 miniature pools of players, so that way I can have an idea of where to build. But if Scotty and Rom, conceivably, damn, conceivably you can put both of them in a lineup, but you would be playing nothing but KH Lees and Svenssons. But the other strategy I employed was looking around here and seeing the matchups in the groups. Like, for instance, like the player that wins their first match, largely like 60, 70% of the time or something like that, pretty high number, can get out of their pool. So I thought, well, okay, let's see. Bezaden Hoot is terrible at match play. He doesn't seem to be a good fit for this course. Tony is a good player. I think Tony knocks out Bez round 1, in my opinion. And then he'll have like Barank round 2 or something. So he could be 2-0 going into day 3, or, and then have to play Kitayama, who's another inexperienced player. So neither one of these two guys have even played match play. So Kitayama is a long course kind of guy. I don't know that he's a short course kind of guy. So that's why I'm kind of into Tony in this. And Will Zalatoris, even though I don't like his form, he's not as good, but it's just been really poor putting. And he does seem to putt better here. So maybe he turns that around. But he's got Putnam in the first round. And then you got Harris English and Ryan Fox, 2 guys that are And you can kind of tell by the pricing, because the highest priced guy in his group is $7K. And then you got guys like Kitayama at 76, and you got 79, and you got Rom, who's loaded with 3 solid players. So that's just kind of how you can go by that. And you move down here. I'm kind of high on Terrell Hatton. Ben Griffin is a newbie who's a very good player. I'm actually a little more worried about him beating Ben Griffin round 1 and then having to play. I don't think he'll have too much trouble with Herbert. Russell Henley is a complete wild card, but the guy is just not. He doesn't make enough putts, in my opinion. I think Hatton is a better match player. Rory, I'm actually higher on after I heard some better news that he got this new stealth driver that he hasn't been hitting very well, but he got the shaft adjusted. He took a week off to decompress. He was feeling a little bit too much pressure going into players with all his responsibilities and duties with the being the ambassador and fighting the live guys and all that shit overseas. And so maybe he just took a week off and said, forget all that other stuff. Give me my driver, make an adjustment, went to Augusta and was just ripping it all over the golf course. So I think I'm a little higher on Rory coming out of here, especially just coming out of this mini pod, because his form's been rattled and he's not a very good match player anyway. Denny is a guy to be a little bit worried about because his form's been really good, but Rory can, if maybe them two can cancel each other out. I just feel good about Rory getting out of here. So Rory and then Hatton. I really like Minwoo Lee, the way he can play. He's seen the course. He didn't really fare too well last year, but he was nowhere near, I think, the player that he is now. His results in the PGA, and I think he's had a few tournaments to get acclimated to PGA life being over here in the U.S. I feel pretty good about him at 7,600. He is very popular. Him and Thagala, that's going to be an interesting round 1 match. That is one that I'd be a little bit iffy on him winning the first round, but I'm going to put a little faith in him. Maybe Thagala is just a little bit too much of a wild man, because Thagala is prone to make mistakes and give holes away. but he is prone to knock it stiff and win holes. So that is going to be a kind of a toss up. Fitz has been struggling. That's why I like Minwoo. Fitz has kind of been struggling with his game a little bit lately, and so this is a fairly weak. I mean, 8,500 is your highest priced guy. That might be the weakest pricing wise division of all of them. Do you see anybody even under 9K? 10-7. Sam Burns is the next 8,800 in his group, I suppose. But he's got other guys. His whole group's actually stacked with mid-7 guys. So moving back over here, excuse me, we're looking at a solid group, and Spawn is the dead minimum. So it's just things of that nature. Like I'll probably be having like a pool of, like, I'll have Rory and I'll have Hatton, I'll have Minwoo, and I might even play some Hoagie. Although Xander kind of does scare me because I think he is he's the kind of guy where past mistakes don't haunt him. He just played really shitty. He should have gotten out of his group last year. I think it was Lucas Herbert, and it was a real weak group, and he just made some awful mistakes that he would not normally make. So I may even actually show a little interest in Xander over, because he'll play Cam Davis first, and I kind of liked Hoagie because he'll play Aaron Wise first, and Aaron Wise's form's just been way off lately. So I think if you can get that first win, then anything can kind of happen for you. You get a win day one, and then maybe scratch out a tie day two, and now you're 1-0-1 going into day three. 1-1-1s have gotten to playoffs and have gotten through before, but if you get 1-0-2, that sometimes can get it done. So I think I mentioned Will Z, and that's a little bit of a weaker division. Kitayama and Moronk are kind of long shots for me, but I really like Tony. And I'm landing on just a little more Cam Young than I thought I would. And it's kind of the caddy thing. I think the new caddy, he might be excited, but he's just a damn good player, and he can hit irons as far as anybody can hit drivers, and he's a Pete Dye kind of guy too. He plays the shot required, even though he's really long. His only problem is those 7 to 9 foot putts to win holes and to half holes he can struggle with, and that's what worries me. So I'm like going to be like 20% maybe, like 2 out of 10 lineups or something with Cam Young. But I'm going to have a lot of Rom. I'll probably have 4 out of 10 or something like that with Rom. 4 out of 10 with Scotty, not playing anybody, even though they're pretty good in his group. This group 16 is kind of scary too. I am taking a shot at Mav just because he putts so well, and he showed some form at Valspar coming off the injured clavicle, and he damn near, he really could have won me some money last year. He lost in a playoff to Kevin Na, of all people. They had both went like 2-0-1 or something like that, or I forgot what it was, but they had the same record. They both had 2 wins. So he beat the brakes off a couple of people too. So I kind of like Mav. If he gets that hot putter, he can dial it in on small greens. So Mav is going to be in the pool. I am going to toss in about 20% Morikawa, just because of the fact he made it out of his group. And every time I fade Morikawa, he rolls. But he's in a tough group. Svensson, I've heard mentioned. Victor Perez, 4th place. This is really a tough group. So I'm not, and the group 8's no joke either. Victor Hovland, even Matt Kuchar, who's a specialist in this match play stuff, can get out of the field. And Siwoo's a Pete Dye guy, and Chris Kirk, he's got his first win in forever. So this group 9, 8, and 9 is really tough. So sometimes I might just avoid altogether. I'll just play like lineups with Scotty. I'll just not play anybody else from this entire quadrant. And then I'll get down into group 5, love Max Homa, and I know everybody else does too. But Max can ball. He's excellent at match play. I think he can clear this division. I don't Justice Sue. I do, every time I see him to turn on the television the last 2 weekends, he's chipping in or putting from somewhere. So I am a little bit worried about him. If Max Homa loses to Justin Sue in the first round, then we're in big trouble, Birdsong. But I still think he can come back and beat Decky and Kisner, even if the worst case scenario happens. And maybe they scratch out a half. I could see a 2-0-1, or what is it called? Yeah, 2-0-1 coming out of here. So, and then the Group 12 with Speed. I like Monty. Monty seems to have turned the putter back around. He's back to gaining 4 or 5 strokes every rip. And he's also very long off the tee. He could take advantage of these little short par fours. He's really good with like the 100-yard wedges in. So I think he could come out of this group. I was kind of high on Spieth at first, but Spieth is Spieth. Lowry I don't like because I don't think he makes enough putts. Mackenzie Hughes is interesting because he did a couple years ago make it out, and he almost made it out last year. So he's going to be a tough out. So if he can beat Jordan Spieth round one, then I think that kind of almost clears a path for Montgomery. And then this Group 13, Seamus. I almost feel like it was fluky that he got out of that group last year, but he can play, and this is the type of course. I mean, he's a around the green and putting guy. We just really haven't been talking about him a lot. It's not like he's been bad. I just, it's really hard for me. Scott made it out of his group last year. I think Adam Scott's a good player. So he's the kind of the guy in this group that I think will come out. And then actually, I was loving this Cantlay group, but I really like KH Lee here. He's going to play a struggle bus Brian Harman, who, granted is the only left-handed player, and this course can favor lefties. So maybe that gives Harman a shot. But the way he's been playing lately, he's not doing anything real well. So KH Lee looked really good last week. So maybe he'll parlay that into some Texas love, because we already know he can play some golf in Texas. So that's what I'm kind of counting on. 6,400 is a value price for him. So I guess really I haven't talked a whole lot about anything. I guess I'll mention this Group 2 with Rahm. He's another one. Like I said, I'm not playing anybody in his pod, even though Billy's got a win here. Billy, for some reason, changed drivers or changed his swing style. And he's really, really struggled off the tee ever since. So I don't know if he's just going to say screw it and go back to his old way of driving, because he does hit kind of a draw, and this course does like left-handers, right-handed guys that can hit the draw. It kind of favors. That's why guys like Scotty Scheffler and John Rahm can hit it any way he wants to. Some of these guys like that, Cam Young, just long guys, Tony Finau, Willie Z, these type of guys. But Ricky is Ricky. I don't like spending $8K on players that these are too expensive to risk to have to play John Rahm and beat him. Because Rahm is going to beat 2 of these guys outright, I think, and then he'll scratch out. I see a 2-0-1 coming from Rahm, and he clears this division. That's just my opinion. I do like Cam Young. I don't think Corey Connors has that third place consolation in him like he did last year. He just doesn't seem to have the form this year. He was big chalk fade of mine last week, I believe, when he failed to make the cut. So I'm just not down with that. But I'll tell you what, it is going to be hard to make lineups. So what you'll need to do, especially say, okay, I had to take a brief hiatus there, but this is Rick Run Goods optimizer, and in his settings, he's got player groups, and he's already got the settings in there that you'll need so you don't build optimally. So I use this to make a few lineups out of kicks and giggles, because it can become a pain in the ass hand building. So that way you're not getting yourself out of the realm of where you need to be. So I use this, and then that way I just go through and put down, and all you have to do is change a couple of exposures over here, and you can build whatever you want, and it'll build out all your lineups, and then you can load them in as you please. So this is always good. Fantasy National, I know, has one because I was a member there last year, and they have the groups preset. So using a lineup optimizer is probably a good way to go. That way you just don't have to think about it, especially if you're making more than 10 to 20, like 20 plus lineups. Absolutely use an optimizer, because by the time you try to go through and hand build 20 to 50 lineups, your head is going to explode, my friend. So I hope you got something out of that video. I feel like I kind of went through and explained a little bit of strategy here and there and gave some of my thoughts on DraftKings and who might advance and who's not. So this kind of substitutes as the DraftKings show. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have some good luck this week. And don't forget about that contest. We got, I want to fill it this week. So until next time, see you soon. Thanks.